we're talking about battery-powered televisions. I used to love these things. I got a handful of stories. I got a couple of them to show you. But we're not going to start with those. We're going to start with this big dog, because this is the first one I had. Now, I don't have my original one anymore. I have another one similar to this Zenith one we're looking at. But the one I had when I was a kid, the one I asked Santa for that he gave me was the SR2000 from Sears Roebuck. Sears Roebuck 2000. I thought, the year 2000, so far off. It's the future. And that's what this was. I loved the idea of this as a kid. As a kid, this was the most exciting thing in the world to me. Television, wherever you were. You could carry it by its handle, pull that antenna up, and you could get a bunch of channels in black and white. You could plug in, not a set of headphones. We didn't have headphones for this, but one little plug that went into one ear that sort of looked like earbuds, but stuck way out and really jammed into your ear. But you would put that in, and then the cord would go just about to the length of the TV. You'd turn your head a little bit and then damn near rip your ear socket out. Is that a thing? You got an ear socket? You got eye sockets. But I do remember having one of these. I do remember loving it. These were great. Like, you know, you could put this in your garage. You could take it out when you're fishing, all kinds of stuff like that. These were good, but they were big and they were bulky. And so the next one to come around, a little smaller, right? So these weren't square anymore. They were rectangular. They put a smaller screen to one side, put the controls right next to it, wider, gives it a wider base, I believe, which makes it lighter to begin with. Smaller screen, smaller parts, whatever inside there. Lighter, smaller, easier to carry. These, by the way, were black and white. In those days, you would have to pull that telescopic antenna all the way up and wiggle it from left to right until you got to a spot where you could see your television station. It was not easy. Bentley, by the way, this is Bentley branded, which I have a Bentley Pong game over there at the bar. I'll show it to you right here. That's it. Pretty great. I love Pong. And this is the one I have that's up all the time. And it's battery powered. Now I have it plugged in, but you can run it off batteries, much like you could with this TV. You did have the option to plug it in, but you ran this thing off batteries. You could bring your Pong with you, your Bentley TV with your Bentley Pong. I mean, that was a good time. All right, the next one that you would have, the next type, we got this. We got this baby. This is what we got. All right, I want to show you this now. This does not power up. I have another one, which I'll show you in a little bit, that was in color. I'm not going to bother to put batteries in these. They don't work anymore. This one doesn't power up at all. I bought it on eBay. This is not the one I had when I was a kid. I wish it was. The one I had when I was a kid had a small scratch on this side of the end. So if you ever see one at a garage sale, it's got a little scratch there. Might be mine. The way this would work, you'd put your headphones right in the jack here. And you did have headphones by that point because we already had our Walkman. So this was our Watchman. So we had our Sony Walkman. This was our Sony Watchman. Another gift from Santa. You can see the screen kind of curved in there. It kind of had this cool curved screen. And I just like watching stuff on small screens. When I was a kid, I was so impressed by the novelty of this. So look at this. You got your UHF, you got your VHF, you got your antenna, which is a little bent. Remember, mine was a little bent on this, and then my antenna was broken for my SR2000, but I was able to push it back in. It was broken off like one of these. I think it was the second one. But I was able to push it back in, and then when I would extend it, I would go like this. I'd get to where I felt like it was about to come out and be like, oh, we're done there, okay. So nobody was allowed to touch it but me, but you'd have this long thing, so when you were walking around, you'd have this hanging out in front of you. Your battery pack was back here. Had the little string, which I was like, pop those batteries out. Took 4 batteries. Had a switch here to switch between your UHF and your VHF. It had a setting where you could turn it on but not have the picture on. And I would use that a lot to save the battery. So I took this on many Boy Scout camping trips, and I very specifically remember being on a hike, walking up to the top of a ridge, and we're told, look out, look how beautiful this is. Isn't this beautiful? And all I'm doing is like, yeah. Ultimate Warrior is trapped in a coffin here, and Papa Shango and the Undertaker are putting him in a coffin. I was like, I don't care about what you're watching, but that's what I remember very specifically watching that. But yeah, that was this thing, man. This is great. So I still love this. I keep this out on a counter. I do use it like a paperweight because it doesn't have a purpose, but I just love it. I love seeing it. I love the feel of it. I love the size of it. So I had this one. Then a few years later, I had a friend that had this one. I would say probably not even a few years. It was probably a few months. Because when you're a kid, a few months is a long time. Friend had this one, bigger screen. It's a bigger screen than this, but the screen came through, the light came through the top, and you flipped this up. You flipped it open, light came through the top. There was a mirror on the bottom that would reflect the image. So the image that came through was reversed. It would reflect it, and you'd watch it on that. You could only watch it when the sun was out, but unlike some of these, and this one, I don't remember being terrible in the sun, but the sun would make it more difficult to watch this one. That one actually worked better in the sunlight. He loved it. My friend loved it. I didn't have one of those. I was jealous. So I was like, no, this is the OG. This is the big dog. This is the good one. I remember this one. You put that on your wrist. Look at that thing. This thing was a little weird though. It had a string. You can see, not a string. It had a cord that ran up your sleeve and then into your pocket. So it wasn't really just a watch. This watch had a big battery pack that was inside here. Tom Hanks, I believe, wore one of these in the movie Dragnet, and I was amazed. I watched, whoa. We used to say these were Dick Tracy watches. Dick Tracy was a very famous comic strip character for many, many years before. And when I was a kid, he was a movie star for a little while. But this was like, he had that watch he would talk into. I had a boombox watch, and Madonna wore one of these. So I thought this thing was super cool. It had the radio. You put the thing in your ear. It was just kind of like this little TV, which I think was what, Seiko? Yeah, Seiko. This little tiny TV, the boombox TV. I had one of these. Like everybody's dad seemed to have one of these. At one point, it became cheap, and you could give it to somebody at a discount. Like go to the drugstore. They had it on special before the barbecue season, and so everybody's dad had one of these, a boombox with a TV in it. And I liked that thing. I thought that thing was pretty cool. You could kind of do it. You were like, I could do anything with this. They'll never make a single device that could do more things than this. The one that kind of blew my mind was this one. There was a gas station near my house, and when I was a teenager, I went to this gas station a lot, and inside, you'd have to go inside to pay, I remember. I think if you used a Shell card or whatever, but I remember going inside, and they had their little shop, and they had a little desk, and then up on a shelf, they had this thing. And I looked at that box, and I was like, wow. That is amazing. And it was sort of after the time where people wanted the Watchman, like people had kind of moved on from it, but this still existed, and it was for your dashboard. And I just was like, that is the dream. That's what I want. I want to be able to drive while watching TV. I mean, this thing sounds crazy, and it'd be on your dash, so you'd have to take your eyes off the road if you were going to follow your soaps on your little tiny screen. I did like watching stuff on tiny screens, though, man. I watched It's a Wonderful Life on my computer. It was the first thing I bought when you could buy a CD that had like a computer CD-ROM that had a movie on it. I bought It's a Wonderful Life, and then I saw that if you minimized it, you could watch it thumbnail sized. And I did. I watched the entire movie as a thumbnail because I was like, I can do this now. This is something I'm capable of doing. The end of the road for these came about. This is a color one. So this one I have is Casio. When I was a kid, for Christmas, I got a Casio keyboard. And in the entire Christmas video, I refer to it as a Casic keyboard. But this had your telescopic antenna. Had all the same controls. Everything was the same with this and this, except for this. You can see the screen is flat. It's a LCD screen. And so that's super cool. Very light. The weight differential between them. This one is actually maybe half the weight of that one. So it was lighter, and it was in full color. There was another system called the Video Now that you had, like kids could watch little videos on it. I remember all of these different ones, and at one point I got this thing called the Dingu, which was a little portable video game, and I could make MP3 files and put them on there. It was a lot of work. And then I got an original iPod, and this killed all that stuff because I didn't need television anymore. I could rip my movies, put them on there. You could, download your movies. You could watch them on that little screen. Little screen was there for me. Now we all have an iPhone in our pocket and we can watch whatever we want. We don't need this anymore, but man, I kind of miss it. Also, as you guys probably know, you can't receive anything on these anymore because they went to high definition television, which killed off all of these things, which is very sad because these are totally useless. I did hear you can use this blonder tongue device in a way that it makes a transmitter that runs throughout your house. It's illegal to make a transmitter that broadcasts further than that, but you can make one that can broadcast a very small signal around your house. And then you could have all your old TVs and you just turn it on and it'll show whatever you're feeding through that machine, which I love the idea because you could feed through, you could create your own channel and then walk around to your old TVs and be like, oh, I'm going to watch the Honeymooners. They're on every day at 3, which I think is cool. We're bringing back the old stuff. Well, speaking of old stuff, you got to choose this one or that one. Choose either one. I'm in both. If you guys could write shenanigans in the comments just to confuse other people that are showing up late. But right now, box and box. See you tomorrow. Shenanigans, write it down. I'll see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock.